Welcome to the You Need More Money podcast. I'm your host, Matt Manero, where I come to you every week from our studio in Dallas, Texas. The big dreamer. I love that. If you're not dreaming big, you're not tapping into your potential. And I believe life is about tapping into your potential. My guest, Greg Walker, a.k.a. the Big Dreamer, has done just that. He has dreamed big, overcome big obstacles, achieved big, and now is helping others big time. Greg became a millionaire by 28, retired by 39. Greg's story of struggle, observing, learning, hard work, and a little bit of luck has inspired me since I first heard about him 2 years ago. I'm pleased to have Greg on the podcast to discuss all of it today. Welcome to the show, Greg Walker. Thank you, my friend. It's an honor for me as well. The purpose of the podcast is to help people get a better understanding of where they are with their money. I am of the opinion that people do not take money seriously enough, that they think they're good, that they're okay, they have enough. And as you and I were just talking about, you never know that. And my story connects with my brother-in-law, who died at 46 years old with a wife and 4 kids. He died with no health insurance, no life insurance, and $100 in the bank. And he used to tell me all the time, I know I'm behind, man, but I got time. I'll make up for it. You know, I mean, I was getting the kids raised, and as soon as the last one's out of the house, then I'll really start putting back for the retirement. I'll get myself caught up. And he goes to the doctor one day for, he just wasn't feeling well. He thought he was going to get a shot, and off he went. He gets diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And so that's the premise of the book, You Need More Money, which is my brother-in-law John's story. And I already had the wake-up call before that. But as you know, when that hits you right in the gut with your family, it does one or two things, man. It cripples you or it fuels you. And it fueled me to write the book and tell his story so that hopefully other people can understand twofold. One, that it can happen to anybody. And two, what is it like to be in a position where you can drop in and remove the financial worry, like my wife and I did for my brother-in-law, in an effort to try and let him focus on getting better. And unfortunately, it didn't work. He did pass away almost 1 year to the day. And it's a terrible tragedy for our family that happened. One, that my wife lost her just beloved brother, and we lost Uncle Scooby, but also the fact that he left his family with nothing, man. And so money's important. So my friend, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to get into it. What is your opinion, Greg, of the financial situation in America?
My opinion is, it's terrible right now, especially with insurance. I believe, most bankruptcies are because of medical problems. And like we were speaking before, Matt, I'm one of 15 children. My grandparents no one had money to bury my grandfather 4 years ago. So I went to Atlanta. My grandmother was crying. They had no way they was going to bury him. So my wife said, dear, just write a check, pay for your grandma. I never saw them, but maybe once every 10 years. But I loved them because I come from every family has dysfunctional. I had dysfunctional 10X. So I wrote the check for my grandfather's funeral, right? And that made me feel so good. And I tell people, making money isn't just to have stacks of money. Money is made to help people. It's made to enjoy yourself. But when I wrote that check it was probably about 6 years ago, I still feel very happy that I got to do something for someone. I've helped put some of my brothers and sisters in rehab, help them out. And that's what money is for. And we all need money because, like I told you, I lost part of my right foot 4 years ago. I have a boot on my foot where I have an ulcer because I was competing for the World Championship public speaking event. I want to get my type 1 diabetes a little bit better control, and I got a foot ulcer. Well, my insurance is almost $3,000 a month. Mm-hmm. So how does Joe Blow, who has 2 or 3 kids, work in a warehouse, how does he afford that now under the Healthcare Act?
He doesn't.
When people say it's okay, the Healthcare Act is okay. No, it's not. You were told you could keep your doctor. It's not happening. You're told your premiums are not going to go up. I used to pay like $600 a month. Now I'm paying almost $3,000. So people need to make all the money they can. Money is not a bad thing. Poverty is a bad thing. Poverty is bad. I've never met anybody who is in poverty and says, I enjoy what I'm doing.
Yep. Well, Greg, we can't get into the success, though, that you've had, the tremendous success that you had, until we really do go back and just explain to the audience a little bit about your story and how you came up through the ranks. Would you go there with us?
Yeah. It started, I grew up in the South end of Columbus here. I'm 13 of 15 kids. No one ever, we don't even know how many brothers and sisters my dad has. Someone said he has like 18. My mom has like 14. And I knew I knew 2 of my aunts on my mom's side. That's it. So I became the first and only one ever to make it past the 9th grade. But that almost didn't happen because my wife now, 30 years, we went to school together. My first day of high school, everyone's telling me, Greg, that you're the man, you're going to make it, you're going to be the one. I'm smiling, walk by my principal's office. He looks at me, waves me over and says, young man, we need to have a talk. And I said, what's going on? And he said, well, we all know your family history. I know all 12 of your brothers and sisters before you. We talked to the other school systems, the principals. We know they gave presents. We know your brother was walking down the hall, getting high, in the 8th grade, and he punches a principal. So you're number 13. Do you understand that's an unlucky number? I didn't know that then. Now I embrace the number 13. I embrace it. And he said, so if you think you're going to be the one that makes it out of this family, you have another thing coming. He says, oh, here's the papers. And they'll be waiting for you when you're ready. And I said, what papers? He said, these are the papers you're going to sign to resign from this high school. So I left that office that day, Matt. I was pissed. People's walking by me, asking me what's going on. And I'm a pretty big guy. Even back then in 9th grade, I was 6'1" and probably 215 pounds. And I'm leaving the school. I'm pissed off. I'm crying. I'm saying this right. He's right. No one ever made it my family. Who am I? So I'm leaving the school. I go to press the door open. I just wanted out of there. Someone grabs me from behind. And I turn around. And I'm just to be honest, man. I just want to knock their damn teeth out. I did. I didn't care who it was. But when I turned around, it was my 7th and 8th grade teacher who also became my 9th grade teacher named Miss Renee Rivers, who my daughter has her middle name. I almost hit her and she said, boy, put that hand down. What are you doing? And where in the hell are you going? And I told her what the principal had said. She pulled me to the office, made me set your big butt down, Gregory. And I tell people, Matt, when she slammed that principal's door, I never realized that a 4'9" Black Christian woman could curse and scream as loud as she did. She did that for me. When she came out, she told me, Greg, you are not your family. You're not your brothers and sisters. And she said, if I have to hold your hand to get you through this high school, that's what I would do, because I know why you stare out the windows, Greg. I know. So she walked me through high school. A month before graduation, she called me in with 3 other female teachers, and she told me, close the door. I said, what's going on? She says, close the door. I said, am I in trouble? She said, close the damn door, Gregory. I close it, and she says, look at us. She said, you're not going to graduate. Put my head down. She put her hand underneath my chin. She says, look at me. She says, Greg, I know why you were staring out the windows in my 7th and 8th grade class. These other 3 teachers here in high school and me, we also know why you're staring out. You were trying to figure out how in the hell can you get out of your family life. We know your family. We know you. You're not stupid. You're not dumb. She said, so you need a 2-point grade point average to get out of this school and go to University of Florida. You have a 1.9. I said, I don't understand. She says, we're going to risk our careers and we're going to change your grades because we see something in you that you do not see in yourself. I thought they were crazy. People all the time, Matt, like when I come on a program like yours, they say, well, that woman she should have went to jail, lost her job. And I said, here's the thing. My wife and I went to an all-black school. So I nicknamed her Little Rosa because she reminded me of Rosa Parks, right? Small black woman. Was it legally right for Rosa Parks to sit in the back of the bus? Absolutely. It was the law. It was the law. But was it morally right? No. Was it legally right for those 4 women to change my grades? No. Was it morally right? Well, my wife and I feed 2,200 people in Ohio through the Central Ohio Food Bank, right? We've helped kids go to historically black colleges, to colleges like Ohio State, Christian colleges, Jewish colleges, whatever. All those people think that those 4 women made the right decision. Yeah. My wife and I have raised 16 nieces and nephews. We're down to 2 girls, right? And my 16-year-old niece was born to my baby sister. at 12 years old. And the other one at 14, and their daddy's in prison for life.
Greg, hang on a second. Your niece was born to your sister who was 12 at the time?
Yes.
Your sister was 12 and she gave birth to your niece.
Yes. And the second one I raised, 14.
Unbelievable.
And that girl now who's 16 years old, she has her own landscaping company, Matt. She works in my restaurant. She has her own landscaping company, and she'll graduate at 17. And if she wants to go to Princeton University, it's already paid for.
Yeah. So there is no moral question to me. I mean, that person who disagrees with what those teachers did, I mean, that was the gift because it's happened to you a couple times in your life. And I mean, you know, I know your story is how you got into the restaurant business. I want to get into that today for sure. But there isn't this, I think with all due respect, you glazed over a little bit of how difficult your upbringing really was. I mean,
yeah,
it was, and I know it, and I want you to go as deep into it as you're willing to go today, because, you know, I'm not kidding you. When I think of the pain of my upbringing, I will often check myself and say, this is nothing compared to what Greg Walker went through.
Yeah, Matt, my parents were alcoholic, drug addict, pill addicts, whatever you want to say. My father should have never had one child, let alone 15. People say you got to respect him for father. No, I don't. He didn't want his kids. He didn't. My mother wanted the kids, even though she was working waitress jobs. And I remember me and my baby sister, we was waiting in a car while she went in so-called paid the rent, got rent money. And we all know what that was about. And, I love my mother. And my mother never told me she loved me ever, Matt, until the day she died. And that's because my wife made me go to the nursing home. I didn't want to see all my brothers saying, oh, there's Mr. Big Shot, blah, blah, blah. And my mother, I always sweat. I'm still a sweater. I was sweating. My mom said something. My wife says, dear, mom's talking to you. I said, so what? She said, look at your mom. My mom looked at me, Matt. She never told me she loved me ever. My mom stabbed me in the side of the side with a fork one time because I said something just out of being a smart ass, something good about my father, which I lied. I just wanted to say something. And because I looked exactly like my father, she came at me and stabbed me in the side of on my left side with a fork. And so she looked at me and my wife said, look at your mother. I looked at her. She wiped a little sweat off my head. She motioned for me to come down and she looked at me. She says, Gregory, I love you. And she died 10 minutes later. And I don't know what my mother went through in life. My father was he was a monster of a man. And people say you can forgive. I do forgive, but I don't believe you have to forget. I don't. All of my brothers are in and out of prison. My sisters are all prostitutes. So my father, I remember walking our room and my sister yelling at me, get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry for cursing, but that's what she said. Because my father was molesting her. My father was just a monster. My father used to pull guns on my brothers, throw my brother through a door. He'd come in and out of our life. He was just a monster. And for me, always be called, you're a loser. You're going to be just like your father. That's what I heard. But I had people in my life, like my teacher. I had friends of mine who their grandparents, they would take me to church. They would always tell me, baby, don't listen to that. I'd run to my wife's house. I'd hide with her. So I had a lot of people, but yes, my life, but like Brad Lee, for a mutual friend of ours, he always says, if you put all your problems in the middle of a table, you'll probably pull one out because just when I think my life was bad, I see someone in Africa who has 4 children and the mother and all 4 children are dying within 6 months of each other from AIDS. So yes, I hated my life growing up. I knew there was something different about me. I knew there was more than what I saw in my family. Matt, I'm going to speak Saturday at a maximum security prison here in Ohio to women, and they've never heard a man speak before. And people say that most people won't touch us with a 10-foot pole. And I'm like, when I go in there, I just see my family. Why are you afraid? All you can take in is your key and your ID. Matt, I always wear a hat. Yeah. I have to put my hat on a guest pass. My hat is a guest pass on there. So I'm not afraid to go talk to these women. I want to go talk. A lot of these women are convicted. But if I can go in there to inspire them to try to write their story on redemption, to help some other woman not to come in there, because women at alarming rate are passing up young men going into the penal system. So my life, with my father beating the hell out of my mother all the time, throwing her down the stairs. I didn't speak until I was probably 11 years old. My family called me a mute.
Wow.
I didn't ask my wife I grew up with, and I've been married to 30 years. I never asked her to marry me because I was that shy. I didn't hold meetings at all my restaurants until I joined this thing called Toastmasters 3 years ago. I delegated everything.
Unbelievable.
And so I didn't speak till I was 11 because my father was in and out of our life. And I heard a boom one time. I come out and I see my father standing there, and he has a bottle of Jack Daniels and a gun. And I look down and see my mother at the bottom of the stairs. And he says, "Boy, that's what happens when you fucking open your mouth." We didn't find that out, Matt, till probably about 5 years ago, of why I never spoke. I just thought I was always a big, shy guy. And that puts something in a kid's psyche.
Sure it does.
So I tell people, everyone's going through something, and we all have to help each other out. And when you compound that with money problems, it even makes it worse. And that's why people are turning to heroin right now in the country, because people are just getting so stressed out. So when someone tells me money is not a big thing, I said, money is not a big thing to a dead person.
That's what I'm saying, though, man. People will either turn that into fuel or they'll turn it into destruction. I happen to have turned it into fuel. I mean, I have vivid memories of my adopted dad. My real dad split when I was 6 months old. I never saw him or heard from him. And I have visual memories of my adopted dad grabbing my mother by the throat with one hand, and in the other hand he has a hammer. And my mother she just couldn't take it anymore. And I have vivid memories of night after night where she would scream to him, do it, right? And he would threaten to kill her with the hammer. Now, when you're 8 or 9 years old, man, you don't know what to do with that. You don't have any idea how to process that. So what I did for most of my career was turn that into fuel and fuel to grow a big business. But then once I hit that goal in my business, that was $100 million a year. And all that pain began to seep back in. And I wasn't burning that fuel at the same level that I was, right? Because that fuel burns hot, man. And once that goal was achieved, I wasn't burning off that pain like I was in the growth mode. It started to seep in. It started making me crazy. This is about 3-4 years ago. It started to really turn me into someone I didn't understand anymore. And so, we've gone through the torch in my business. That was 2015, 2016, where I just blew the whole place up and said, we're going to change it. We're going back to mission statement and core values. I'm going to change as the leader. I'm going to turn myself into a world-class leader. And that's the only chance we got to ever get bigger than we are right now. So how did you handle that transformation? Why didn't you become everybody else that was around you, man?
Well, I always saw people, I used to go to my friend's house and their grandparents. I'd go to their grandparents' house. And, I thought they were rich, Matt, because they lived in a $80,000 house. They lived in an $80,000. Listen, my home theater behind me, Matt, my home theater behind me right here cost me $200,000. My home theater cost me $200,000. And I'm looking at these people in the hood saying, damn, they're rich, $80,000. They're living like the Black Brady Bunch. They're the Black Brady Bunch, right? My wife and niece that spend that in a year just shopping. So I did that and I thought, wow, they have 2 bathrooms.
Yeah, man.
They have 2 bathrooms. Mm-hmm. Now, people don't understand what's the big deal about 2 bathrooms. When you grow up with 14 siblings in 1 bathroom, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I used to go to school early and go to the locker room, and my football coaches knew what I was going to do. I would shower when I'd go inside.
Sure, man. Sure.
So what I always told myself, Matt, I wanted to have that Brady Bunch. I wanted to have that $80,000 house. And then I saw I wanted to have a $180,000 house and $200,000. And it wasn't about the money. It wasn't. It wasn't about the money. I just wanted to make sure that when I had children, I knew I was going to raise my niece and nephews, because I saw as my even when I was in high school, I would always look out after my 6-year-old niece. Her name is Angel, and she died in a fire at 6 years old.
Wow.
6 years old. And Matt, here's the story about that. people blame my brother. They say my brother did that for insurance. I don't know what. But I was riding home on a school bus after football practice every day. I would always see my niece and nephews playing. One day I was so tired. I was sleeping on the activity bus. And I hear everyone look and say, oh my gosh, look, the house is on fire, blah, blah, blah. I slept, Matt.
And that was your niece's house. That was where your niece lived.
I got home and someone called me and they said, Greg, where's your brother's sister-in-law? I said, I don't know. She said, well, I heard Angel just died in a fire. I found out that was the house that I saw every day, saw them two little kids playing at. And she would have been like 36 years old.
Amazing, man.
Right now. So those are the things I had to, and I said, you know what? I'm never going to let my niece and nephews grow up in slums like that. I'm not going to let my kids, because there's one thing to be born into poverty, but to stay there, that's our fault.
Yes, it is.
When I go down, my wife and I, because we always made my 29-year-old daughter and my niece and nephews.
I just saw she just celebrated that, right? That was her birthday this week?
She turned 29. You know, the first person ever to go past the 9th grade, my daughter took it to the highest level. She took it to the highest freaking level. She says, my daddy broke the sound barrier. I'm going beyond.
Yeah,
I'm going beyond. You know, she says this all to me all the time. She says, my dad just told me that the sky's the limit. No, we don't. We know it's not, because Neil Armstrong put his footprint on that moon.
Yeah, man.
So I always wanted more, Matt. I always wanted more. Sometimes people say, did you ever doubt yourself? Hell yes, I did. Hell yes. When I saw my wife upstairs, I remember one time when I was struggling in college, Matt, we came home to see my brother who just passed away, in and out of prison, psychiatric home. We came to his nice house, his beautiful house in 1984. And my wife says, how did you get this house? He said, you know what we do. And he said, hey, you want to come down and see my pretty flowers? She said, you ain't got no flowers. Matt, he had about $300,000. This was 1984 or 85. He had about $300,000 worth of marijuana plants. He had a 5,000 square foot home. That made me cry. Not the marijuana plants, but because he was living a nice life, and here I am struggling in college.
Yeah.
But I tell people, my teacher, other people, a guy who started a hamburger chain, who I'll get in that in a second, they all told me, young man, don't look at that. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep your core values, your principles, and you will surpass those people. And I didn't believe them. I would tell them, yeah, I know, thank you. And I'd go home and cry. And now I look back, I connect the dots, and I said they were all absolutely 100% right.
But I got to get into that connecting of the dots, because there's an interesting thing that happened to you that doesn't happen to a lot of people, where people were there to help you at certain times. So you get to Florida, and then you and your girlfriend get pregnant with your daughter, right?
My wife now, yeah.
Was she your wife at that time?
Oh, yeah. We grew up together since fourth grade.
Okay, got it. So then you drop out of school and you go back to Ohio, and you're like, man, I got to figure something out. I got to raise this kid, and I got to take care of my wife. And you start working at a Subway, the sandwich shop.
Yep. Yeah, I met at Subway. Let me get back to that guy who started a hamburger chain.
Yeah. My
teacher, Mrs. Rivers, had a thing called Junior Achievement. I don't even know this.
I know it. I do it. I speak for Junior Achievement. I know it.
Yeah, so she would bring these guys in our class, and they speak to us. Well, this one guy came one time, and he was speaking to us, and I had a chip on my shoulder because of my family life. And I'm sitting there in the corner, and he comes up to me and says, young man, there's something I'm not saying. And I looked over, and I said, you know what? I said, listen, man, we're just tired of you white guys coming in here telling us how we can be something. Now, my best friend, Charlie, who we just celebrated our 51st birthday together, he tells my nieces all the time, he says, hey, when Greg said that, I looked over and said, Greg, you do know you and Jan are the only white kids in the class.
That's awesome.
So the guy looked at me, he says, young man, where do you think I went to college at? I said, I don't know, Ohio State, maybe UCLA. He said, what if I told you I dropped out of the 10th grade and I'm an orphan? I said, well, if you're a loser like my family, my teacher says, young man, you respect this man. I said, Mr. Rivers, he dropped out of the 10th grade. He's like my family. Why is he here? He's a loser to me? And she came and she said, young man, you will respect this man. And he said, young man, I dropped out of 10th grade. I became a dishwasher for a guy who drove around a white Cadillac, wore a white suit, and had a white beard, and tried to sell his chicken recipe. I said, I'm sorry, I don't know who this guy is. He said, yes, you do, Greg. His name was Harlan Sanders, and you have Kentucky Fried Chickens right around the corner from where this school is. And I said, you work for him? He said, yes. I worked as a dishwasher, worked all the way up to a general manager. He says, young man, I have 11 underperforming stores. Now, we didn't know what underperforming. when you grow up in inner city school, you don't. Now people do. Now kids do because of all this social media stuff. But I didn't know what that meant. And now we don't make any money. So he said, if you go to Columbus, Ohio, turn these stores around, I'll give you one.
Wow.
He turned them around so well, he gave them all 11. So him and a guy named Governor James Rhodes here in Ohio, he used that money as seed money because he wanted to start his own hamburger chain and he hated milkshakes. So he had an 8-year-old redhead daughter named Melinda Lou. When I need people to understand this name, Melinda Lou, because so many people come to me in the country and say, oh, I know Melissa. It's not Melissa, it's Melinda Lou. She could not say Melinda Lou, so she said Wenda. Well, this man and his wife knew they could not name the hamburger chain Wenda, so they named it Wendy's. And that man's name was Dave Thomas.
Unbelievable.
And what he taught me, Matt, was, and this is why I tell people, opportunities come to everybody. Stop telling me opportunities don't come to you. There was 25, 30 kids in that class. He told all of us, if you guys are willing to come here one Saturday a month, it might not be me, but it will be one of my staff. We will come and mentor you how to make it in life. 25 to 30 people, Matt, only 3 of us. Only 3 of us. I became a restaurateur. One girl had 3 kids in the 10th grade. She owned 6 dental practices. Another one is a big-time attorney in Atlanta. Right?
Yeah.
We came there. And listen, man, I tell people honestly now, I didn't go there because of Dave Thomas. I didn't know who Dave Thomas was in 1978 or wherever it was. I went there because they brought free Wendy's once a month. I went there for that. What he taught me, Matt, was since he dropped out of the 10th grade, he says, young man, the reason I'm where I'm at today is not because of my grade point average, because of my work ethic. And he says, I always use this thing on my shoulder called fear, that I never want to go back to where I only want to go forward. He says, so you can work your way to wealth. That's what he said. You can work your way to wealth. So that's how I did it. And then when my teacher got me in the University of Florida, I saw this thing called Subway, started working at it, didn't know what a franchise or a franchisor was. I didn't know what a franchisee was.
Well, what were you doing? Just to pay the bills? I mean, that was the whole purpose of working at Subway, or did you have a bigger game plan at that time?
Well, no, I went to work at the University of Florida because we were allowed to work there as athletes. Now athletes are not allowed to work in most Division I schools. So I'm working there. I liked it. Well, I knew I had to drop out. So I came back to Columbus. I wanted to be a manager and like a general manager because he taught me a lot of things. And I worked for this guy named Clarence Johnson. And after like 8 months, he sat me down. He said, we need to have a talk. And I said, what's going on? And he said, well, I know you want to be a manager, district manager for me, Greg. He said, but we got to part ways. Now, Matt, I'm 51 years old, and I have never tasted a beer. I've never tasted any. I'm more Muslim than my Muslim friend. I am. But that's not because I think people are bad. It's just because of my upbringing.
Yeah.
I knew I'm an addict to something. So I'm looking at this guy like I want to hit him because is he going to accuse me of stealing? And he says, young man, he said, just listen to me. He said, I cannot have you become a manager, district manager, because I need you to take that next step. I said, what's that next step? He said, I need you to become an owner. And I said, what owner do you want me to work for? He says, I want you to become an owner. I said, well, that's great. I said, but there's one problem. I don't have any money. And we're talking about you need more money, right? And he says, I know that. He said, Greg, if you can get in here and work 7 days a week like you're doing for me and my wife, you don't ask me for overtime, you don't complain, you don't gossip. If you can do that for yourself, you will surpass me and you will never have to worry about diapers for your baby again. And I laughed at him. I said, that's not going to happen for me. He says, young man, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And he says, I know you. How much money do you have? My wife and I had, I think, $1,200 at the time to our name.
Yeah, which to me is surprising. I mean, there's people today that don't have $1,200 to their name, and you're talking about a guy working in Subway. How the hell did you even get $1,200 with a wife and a baby?
I worked 3 jobs. I worked a warehouse job at nighttime, third shift. I worked Subway in the daytime, and I worked at White Castle. We have White Castle here on the weekends because I wanted to make sure that I had money. I just thought I was going to do that all my life.
Yeah.
But I knew I wanted money. So He said, how about you give me half that and I'll finance you. I'll be your bank. I said, what do you mean I didn't know I never heard anybody talk about financing someone. I don't even know what that meant. Right? What's that mean?
You didn't know what a loan was. I mean, none of that made any sense, man.
No, he said, Greg, a bank will not give you money. He said, but I'm going to give you the money. What you're going to do is you're going to work like you're working for me now. You and Janet will get in here. You'll bring Amanda in here as she's grown up and she might sleep in the back when she's sick or whatever. He said, but you're going to pay me monthly. You're going to pay me monthly. And I'm going to make the payment so low that you're going to be able to make it. You're going to make it very well. And you're going to look back and you're going to say, thank you, Clarence. And he was absolutely right. We got in there, Matt. I tell people, when people say they're going to be an entrepreneur, and I don't consider myself an entrepreneur.
Me
Matt.
either.
Even though I opened 210 taco franchises, I'm not an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is someone who Fred DeLuca, who started Subway, that's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, dude, I'm a business owner.
I like systems.
I like systems. I like holding on to things. An entrepreneur in my mind is somebody who is chronically having to start new things, get in, get out, get in, get out. I'm in the same business for 22 years, man, right? I don't consider myself an entrepreneur. I just consider myself a business owner.
Yes, that's what I say. So all these people talk about they want to be an entrepreneur, they're grinding and they're hustling. They're saying all that stuff. But I say, I was speaking one time in Detroit, Matt, and this kid came to me and says, hey, Greg, big dreamer, I'm gonna blow up, man. I'm gonna be wealthier faster than you. And my wife said, how many hours do you work? And he said, I put in 48. My wife said, did you hear my husband say to these 2,000 people that he slept in our first restaurant for 4 years straight, 7 days a week, only leaving an hour to come home, take a shower, and then see our newborn baby? Mm. You're working 48 hours, work open to close. She said, our restaurants didn't open until 11 o'clock then. I got in there at 6 or 5 o'clock in the morning, make sure everything's right. I did everything. So I paid my store off quick. So I tell these people when they're saying they're doing all this, I said, listen, you just posted 22 times on Facebook. Right. How are you working to open and close?
Dude, you and I couldn't agree more on that. In fact, I've been pushing that message out the last couple of weeks is, I did a mentoring session for a guy this week and he was coming out of his bedroom wanting to be a motivational speaker. I said, listen, man, you haven't done shit. You can't stand up in front of somebody and tell them to do shit if you haven't done shit. And you haven't done a damn thing. You're 23 years old and you're still in your bedroom at your mother's house. You should be working 3 freaking jobs right now. I don't want to see you posting anything on Facebook because it doesn't matter one bit. You know what you need? You need some money and you need some freaking experience. And then you have something to tell to somebody. But right now, my friend, you're just pissing in the wind.
Me and Les was talking about this when we were having lunch here in Columbus. He says, Greg, why are you not coaching people?
You're talking Les Brown.
What's that? Yeah, Les Brown. Yeah, 7 of his 10 kids live here in Columbus. His mentor, Mike Williams, is also my mentor.
But he's a Miami guy now, right? He's out of Florida?
Yeah, he has a house in Cleveland, Florida. His institute is in Fort Lauderdale.
Gotcha.
But he's here once a month getting cancer treatments at Ohio State.
Yeah.
And I talk to his daughter, Serena, all the time. We're close friends.
Yeah.
So we were talking. He says, Greg, why are you not coaching? I said, I never thought about it. He said, well, you should. He said, because there's people out there selling programs, Greg, making $15, $20, $100,000 a month. Yeah. And they had, he said what you said. They haven't done a damn thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They haven't done nothing. And that's right. When I hear someone call themselves a brand specialist, and everyone's a branding specialist on social media. Sure. And I say, like my daughter came home one time, Matt, when she was in college, says, Dad, this professor said you're wrong about how to make $1 million. I said, well, go ask your professor, does he make $80,000, right? She came home, she said, why do you need to know that? He says he makes $68,000. Exactly. How can a guy who makes $68,000, now tell me he made $100 million and he went broke or something, I'll listen. But if I want to take swimming lessons, I want to listen to the guy or girl who at least came in last in their high school swim team.
Dude, you and I, we're just so on the same page with this. I mean, it's epidemic now, though, Greg. It's gone crazy. Everybody thinks they can be the next whoever. And the reality is they can't. Most people won't do it. So, hey, I want to just talk about, you get the first Subway, you get it paid off quickly. How long did it take you to pay it off?
Took me 2 years. 2 years. And it takes most franchisees 7 to 10 years to pay off.
So here's the big takeaway, though, for the audience. And as they begin to figure out how they're going to get their money situation right, you began to understand one of the key components of money, which is leverage.
That's right.
And so walk us through how you began to put leverage to grow this huge portfolio of restaurants.
Well, it was the bank. It was the bank that contacted me. So one of my bankers would come in now 30 years. He came in and he's like, Greg, he said, have you thought about getting a second store? I said, well, I don't know if I can afford it.
Right. I got to pay cash for the store, right? I don't have the money to pay for the store.
Yeah. He said, well, I heard you say your store's paid for. It is. He said, well, have you ever heard of something called leverage? I said, I heard a quote by the great mathematician Archimedes, who he said, if you give me a prop long enough and the lever strong enough to single-handedly move the world, that's a different type of leverage.
Yeah, I know leverage from my warehouse days, right? Yeah, I put leverage when I move the boxes, yeah.
That's right. So he said, Greg, we will give you money on this store. You can leverage this store to buy another store. So that's what I did, Matt. I did that. Then I paid off my second store quick. I leveraged that. I learned to use leverage money. Now, some music just came on my TV. I have 8 TVs downstairs, a home theater. Now they're all going off, Matt.
Alexa just turned on. That's it.
Yeah. And I don't know how to turn them off. My niece isn't here. So I leveraged that. And then all these bankers started hearing about me doing things. So then Subway, I went to my mentor, Clarence, and I said, Clarence, I don't like smoking. I hate smoking. And one time in one of my Subway restaurants, there was 22 people smoking, Matt. 22. And he says, young man, he says, have you ever thought about making a non-smoking? I said, everyone smokes. He said, but you're young enough, you could try it. I tried it, Matt. All my employees quit. They all quit. They told me, you're never going to make it, never going to make it. 4 years later, Ohio came out with a non-smoking policy. So that's where I went with my gut, my reaction, and I did it. So then I took the sales. I went around marketing to everybody like I talk about in my book. I marketed. I went to the pastors. I did guerrilla marketing, putting signs up on posts or wherever. And I increased that sales so much that Subway says, wow, you want to open more stores. So I used that as leverage, got a loan on that store. But I like being debt-free. My wife and I now, we like being debt-free. And I tell people debt-free is good for us. But you have to use credit. You have to, because not everybody's going to get to the point where you can pay cash for everything. But that's where we're at in our life right now.
Yeah, sure.
So I leveraged those restaurants until I didn't have to leverage anymore. And this is what I tell people, Matt, when you open a new business. My personal belief is you don't buy any luxury item until you at least have a year's worth of your bills in the bank.
6 months is not enough. The word on the street is 6 months. 99% of the people don't have 6 months, and 6 months isn't enough. It's a year.
That's right. And people said, Greg, why aren't you driving nice rides?
Yeah.
You know, we still had a 1987 Chevy Chevette.
Yeah.
Chevy Chevette.
So what? You know? So how many stores did you end up getting up to in the Subway franchisee system?
I got up to 55 at one time. And then someone came to me and says, my area developer who started Subway in Ohio in 1977, he says, you know, Greg, you've done very well at Subway. I think you need to take the next step and become a master developer like me. I didn't know what that was. So he said, hey, there's a little taco chain, you know, that they want to get me to do it. He said, but at the time he was in a fight with our founder, who's a billionaire. He said, so I can't piss him off anymore. So he says, Greg, I think you got to take this opportunity. So I took the opportunity. And I was part of a team to open 270 taco franchises, burrito franchises.
What was the name of that?
In the world.
What was the name of that?
It's called Taco Del Mar.
Taco Del Mar. Now,
oh, it does. Yeah, Subway bought that company. Subway bought that company. So that's where I got to experience in that. And I got 1/3 of royalties for that, which once again helped me get more money, right? And people said at the time, you know, my daughter went to a private Christian school, and my wife and I, we bought bleachers for them. You know, that's $50,000. They didn't have anything. Now their school says Subway, all inside. And that wasn't my idea. That was a student's idea, Matt. A couple of my daughter's students came to me and said, Mr. Walker, you made all the way to help you pay for it. I said, you're a smart young man. You're a very smart young man. So when you go to that school today, my daughter graduated in 2007. Everything still says Subway.
No kidding.
You know, we have Amish friends. That school had no trophy cabinets. So my Amish friends made 12 of them for them. And that's why I wanted to make more. But this person came to me, Matt, and said, Greg, why are you doing more business? Isn't that greed? So I said, Becky, let's go in this gym. See those banners? See those banners? They weren't here. See those $50,000 bleachers that my wife wrote a check for? Those wasn't here. I said, you have 2 boys that play baseball. I don't have a boy. My wife bought those uniforms. Ask me again why I want to make more money.
Totally. Listen, eventually.
So leverage is a key part.
It is.
Leverage is a very important part of business.
But look, a key message in my book is this concept of false positive, where we actually trick ourselves to thinking we're doing better than we are, right? So you're 28 years old and you're now a millionaire. Did you ever fall into false positive where you're like, oh man, we're rolling? Maybe you did after 5 stores, but I mean, did you ever fight this we're good mindset?
I did a little bit. But then when I saw, that I had to start helping my brothers and sisters, get out of prison, they needed money for this, they needed to get in rehab, their kids needed something. I said, you know what? And Matt, I used to be an enabler.
Yeah,
if
right.
I would have saved the money, my siblings, right?
Yeah, right.
I could have helped a lot more people.
Yeah, man.
But I did what I knew then. My wife has trained me now to say, you know what, you cannot make someone change. They have to want to change. Yeah. So I don't help out my siblings anymore.
Yeah.
I don't. I'll give them all the education they want. If they want to go get a PhD in psychology, I'll pay for that.
So when did you know that you were officially retired, and what was the indication? You began to say to yourself what?
Well, at 39, 12, 13 years ago, I was talking to my accountant. My accountant says, why are you and Janet not living your life? I said, we are living your life. He's like, no, you're not, Gregory. You're not. You're not going places. You're not going to conventions in Las Vegas, wherever. He said, you can do that. So I tell people, Matt, I retired, but I didn't retire. I just don't have to get up and go do the day-to-day operation thing.
Yeah.
I still do things. I speak around the world. I'm heading to New York with my nieces next week to speak with a big guy named Greg Reed at the Napoleon Hill Institute. I just got back from L.A. 3 times. I was supposed to speak with Les in L.A. Andy Aldate's thing, but I had to pull out for that. Les and I are speaking the same time on the 18th in New York. So I do all that stuff. That's how I keep busy. And I am coaching people now because that's what I found out my true love is helping people, inspiring people like you are doing right now to get people to understand that you have to keep growing, So I wanted more because I wanted to help more, Matt.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I keep coming back to with your story. I don't remember anybody helping me. I don't remember anyone, not somebody in my house, not a friend's dad, not a coach, nobody in business, not a neighbor. I don't remember anybody tapping me on the shoulder and saying, man, you're somebody special. I just grinded it out, had this one goal and achieved it. So why do you think all these people were in your life at these unique, pivotal times?
Well, I didn't realize that until we look back now and we connect the dots, as Steve Jobs says. Some people say I was blessed. I'm no different than any of my brothers and sisters. I'm not. I don't know why. Les always tells me, young man, you have the juice. There's something about you that people like. I'll take that. I tell him I accept that. Les, I love that. But I think I'm just an ordinary guy. Matt, when I was working in Subway, I remember people used to come up to me and say, I have a problem with you. And I say, with me, what I do? I need to speak to the owner, and I need to speak to you. I say, I'm not the owner. They say, well, I need to speak to the manager. You're the manager, right? And I'd say, no. And I told my wife, I don't know why they always thought that. But my wife now says, and my mentors now, they all say, Greg, because you had that mentality. You were a little bit more Savannah, come over real quick. Matt, I'm going to introduce you to my 15 siblings, one of her daughters. This is Savannah.
Hey, darling. How are you?
I've had her since she was 6 months old.
Yeah.
Matt, let me she tells the story all the time. I want to tell people this so they can learn how to break through something. At 9 years old, her and her sister were getting their black belts. She had 3 chances to break boards. And I told her before, if you can't break that board, I want you to break your hand. I got criticized for that, my wife and I. And what I told her was, we can bandage that hand up. We can put ice on it. But if you don't go through this, you got to wait 6 months to a year to try that. So she broke the first 2 boards. The third board she couldn't break. So I'll let her tell the rest of the story. Tell Matt, speak loud.
So on my last board, I looked at the audience and he was going like that, and then I broke it.
So what she did, she looked over at me, and all I did, because I told her it's a mind game.
Yeah.
I told her it's a mind game. So will you turn that down, please turn that off? So I told her it was a mind game. So she looked over at me and my wife, and all I did was this. And she adjusted Matt. And that's what we need to do. We all need to adjust the life. She adjusted the board to her stance. She broke through that board.
Yeah.
She jumped up, and then she realized I can't act excited. I got to act professional. And she came off, and she just smiled at us. And we didn't clap. We just shook our heads, yes. So I tell people, what boards in life, what third board are you coming up on that you know that you can break through? That you know if you break through that, your life will change forever. She's now 12. So the rest of her life, no one can take that black belt away from her. And she did not give up. She did not quit. So that's what I want everyone listening to hear. You're going to come against that third board to break. And the reason why I believe I'm successful, Matt's successful, other people, is because we know we can break through that board. And it is your mind. It wasn't her fist that went through that board. It was her mind that went through that fist.
But you know what else I hear in that story? I hear that she also made some adjustments on the fly, right? Yeah. She went back to some fundamentals, adjusted the stance, is what you said, got the mind right. And a lot of people they're just floating, man. They're just, maybe they achieve once or twice, and then they don't go back to the fundamentals that made them achieve the first or the second time. And that's the key thing. I always say to people, how much does it take to win a horse race? It takes a nose, man. It might just be that little bit that puts you over the edge, because the difference between first place, second place prize money is a lot, right?
It is a lot.
And they don't always want to tweak it, man. They just get caught in this. And I mean, the trait of every successful person I know is that at some point they literally have to torch what got them to a certain level to be able to get to the next level. You have to be willing to burn it up and retrain and go back to the basics and take a step backwards, take 2 steps forwards. Give me an example in your life other than your niece like that, where you actually had to take steps back to be able to take steps forward. I mean, the graph didn't always go straight up.
No. When I became a master developer, I got really comfortable.
Yeah.
Because I didn't need to work hard anymore. So I wasn't selling as many franchises that I wanted to. So I said, okay, Greg, what got you to this point? What got you here? What did you do? And I said it. My belief system that I could do what I wanted to do, my work ethic, work my freaking butt, my face off, whatever you want to call it, and connect with people. And that's what I did. I stopped becoming a salesman. And what I would do, Matt, I just spoke honesty. If I was speaking to you and your wife about buying a franchise, I'd say, Matt, tell me how I can talk you and your wife out of buying this franchise. Right?
Okay.
And people would say, what in the hell are you saying that for? And I said, because I want them to know the truth. And I'd say, here's the truth. You could lose everything you possibly have, your house, everything. And Matt, when I made that connection, I sold more franchises than anyone. I sold people because they bought on me.
Yeah. Because
I told them the truth. I don't really know about sales, but Brad says I am a salesman because I sell subs, tacos, whatever. So I tell people, stop selling the product and sell you. So people would laugh all the time and say, well, why are you trying to talk me out of it? Because I want you to know the truth. So that's where I had to step back and say, what do I need to do to become the best master developer in the country? And that's what I did. So I went back and saw what was my fundamentals that I had to do.
What were some of the key traits of the people that failed, Greg? People that did buy as franchisee and then they lost it. I mean, because that happens in that world.
Matt, I bought a store. One time that people passed up on, right? It was 3 miles down from where we grew up at in the hood. My in-laws still lived there. So my daughter and I, she was in middle school then, we go in. I see this guy come in. They didn't know who I was. He goes behind the safe and they say, hey, Brendan, what's happening? He gets in the safe. He pulls the money out and he says, I'm going to buy me a freaking Harley, man.
Oh, boy.
And he went and got a Harley. So then he left. I saw some kids come out and they were getting sandwiches and just leaving, wasn't paying for them. So then I thought, okay. So I was getting a steak sandwich. I said, hey, young man, hey, can I get a little extra meat on there, please? I said, I'm a big guy. He put some more on there. I said, can I get a little bit more? The kid looks at me, Matt, and he says, are you a car salesman? I said, no, I'm not. I said, I'm just a big guy who loves to eat. So Matt, he gave me what should have cost me about $14 back then for free.
Yeah.
I looked at my daughter and she says, Dad, you're going to buy this store, aren't you?
Yeah.
I said, you're damn straight.
Yeah.
I bought that store, Matt, because what I saw was this guy, he thought like most employees. He thinks that you come and take all your money out of your safe and you can just go on trips.
Yeah.
And guess what? When we bought that store, Matt, he told me that he needed to walk away with $67,000 after everything's paid. 67. We almost got in a fight at our corporate office because he said, this is how you freaking do business. I said, what? He says, you handed me a freaking $1,800 check. I said, yeah. He said, what is this about? I pulled out everything that we paid off, his electric bill, his food bill, all the royalties he owed. And I said, here you go right here. These are all your signatures. I owe you $1,800. He said, that's how you do business? I said, yes, sir. That's how I do business. So that's why people fail right there.
Mismanagement then. They're not watching the store. I mean, they're not keeping an eye on the store.
Yeah, they think, he bought a business and thought, I just bought two. Listen, I didn't want to buy any more businesses. I just bought 2 more Subway restaurants because I bought one I took over last month.
Because you can't stand to see the mismanagement. You just can't do it. You can't. You just say it's opportunity. It's sitting there. This is my superpower. I know how to turn this thing around. I got to be in.
That's right. These 2 guys who had jobs, they thought they'd buy 2 Subway restaurants and make millions of dollars. Well, I tell people partnerships don't work.
Yeah,
my wife is my partner, and we still argue. So they are not friends. They sold me one of their stores. The second store, Matt, I was going to pay $215,000 for. I said, no, I'm just going to let them fight. 2 years later, I just paid them $50,000 for that store.
Right. Look, people do need to understand that the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership. I mean,
that's right. And
I see it all the time in my business, constantly, where guys went 50-50. Even my brother-in-law, who's in the restaurant business, oddly enough, and he has a very successful sandwich shop called the Kitchen N8 in Portsmouth. And I knew it was going to be successful. I knew when he told me the idea that it was going to work. And I said, do me a favor, don't go into partnership with that guy, man. Don't do that. He's like, oh man, the guy's going to do the marketing and build the website. I said, I'm begging you, don't go into business with that guy. Because here's what's going to happen. That sandwich shop is going to throw off about 150 grand a year, best case scenario. And you got to split it. So that you're going to work your ass off and you're going to make 75 grand. And sooner or later, one of you isn't going to do your end of the bargain. And you're going to hate him for it, but you're still going to be stuck when you open the second store, splitting the second store 50-50. I begged him not to do that. And what did he do? He went into partnership with the guy, and everything we talked about is played out. He hates the guy. He's not holding up his end of the bargain, and he can't expand. I'm like, why don't you have 6 of these things? They would work. I got to pay my guy 50% everything. You're freaking trapped, man.
That's right. And that's what happened here. Matt, $215,000. I bought it for $50,000. Our equipment is 96. 96. The store is only a year and a half old. They wanted $1,000 a month rent. My wife said, absolutely not. We went lower. They gave it to us. And then they said, Greg, what's the interest rate right now? I said, why? They said, because we're going to finance you out of our pocket for 5%. We want to get rid of it. I said, 5% is good. 5%, right? So they financed me for 5%. So no money out of my pocket. 50 grand. They lowered the rent. Right? And they financed me out of their pocket for 5%. and I have friends who say, I thought you didn't want any more businesses. I said, I don't. But that's not, I don't even know if that's called a steal.
No, I had to. I just had to do it. It's too close to my superpower. I got to do it. Hey,
that's right.
I like to play this little exercise on the podcast because I don't know necessarily the age group or the demographic that's listening. So let's go through this real quick. If you're in your 20s, you got some student loan debt, you're not really you don't know what the next move is. What is the advice you give to this person? In their 20s, they got student loan debt and they just don't know what the roadmap is. What do you tell them to do?
I tell them work. They can enjoy their life. They can go to a movie every once in a while, but work, and then find someone who's doing what you want to do and emulate what they're doing, but turn it to your own style.
Yep.
I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. I don't. I mean, when I listen to my friend and brother, Les Brown, he always tells me all the time, Greg, you know, everything I say is not from me. I'm not reinventing the wheel. Some things I make up. So I would tell that young man or girl, work hard, study your craft, practice your craft, whatever it is, and find someone who's doing what you want. And here's the most important thing, Matt. I would tell someone, do what you want to do, not what your parents or your aunt and uncle want you to do. Follow your heart. And if you want to be a starving artist, be the starving artist.
But just bust your ass at it.
Yeah, there are consequences if you can't pay your bills. So I would tell them, work and just follow your heart.
So let's go, a guy in his 30s, right? He's got the student loan paid off. They just bought the house. They got the 2 young kids. His wife doesn't want to work anymore. Mid-level manager, not sure what upward mobility is, but he still has ambition to do something different. What do we tell this guy?
I say he has to talk to his wife and say, where do we want to go? What is our 6-month plan? What is our, see, because my wife, we don't have we never made a 5-year plan because I'm looking at my grandchildren's grandchildren. So we have a 100-year plan.
Yeah, killer.
My daughter's 29. She's going to live to be, another 70 years with medical technology. So that's 70 years right there. Now my grandchildren, that's coming pretty soon, hopefully, that could be another 100 years. So we have a 100-year plan right now. So I would tell that 30-year-old, talk with your wife, say, what do we want out of life? Where do we want to be, 10, 20? What do we want for our children's children? Because a wise man leaves an inheritance for his kids' kids. Right?
Dude, that's the big dreamer right there, man. That's basically what you're saying is you got to dream bigger. You got to see longer into the future. I say that to people all the time. I say most business owners are working only in the present. And I'm challenging you, when you're talking to your people about what the future looks like, it has to be a minimum of a 5-year window that you're looking at. Because the 6 months that you're so focused on, that number's already in the past. I mean, you're going to be around 6 months from now. You're going to be all right. It may not be great living in 6 months, but you'll still be here. You need to see what are the changes you got to make for the next 5 years. And you're saying from a life plan, that person has to go 100 years out. That's big.
That's right.
I love that.
That's right. Now, you got to go big. You got big or go home.
Now, here's where it gets real difficult. 52 years old, and I keep referring to it as a guy. It could be a woman as well. The kids are finishing college, and they're way behind on the retirement, right? They live too large. $20,000 vacations. They went for the big house, the 2 cars, 3 cars, whatever. Fancy educations for their kids. And they got nothing in retirement. And now they're in their early 50s. They got a little income stream. Guy's making 150 grand a year. What does that guy have to do to make the change?
He has to downsize his house so he can get his property taxes down, his mortgage house down. He doesn't need the 9,000 square foot house. He needs to start saving more, putting in investments, or looking to buy an investment. Look at buying a rental property or something. Maybe he can go back. Maybe he worked for GM. Maybe he can start doing some consulting work. Mm-hmm. But he needs to get on a fast track. Mm-hmm. Time is the enemy in retirement. Mm-hmm. So he needs to start figuring out how can he put money back or invest money, because that's what we do. When my wife wanted a Mercedes-Benz, we just bought another store, right?
Yeah. And took the cash flow off.
And that store bought the Mercedes-Benz. So I would tell that guy, you need to downsize your life because you don't need that much more. Yeah. Figure out how you can do some type of consulting. See if you can take your money and invest it to have more money coming in, and then put that in retirement. But you got to cut your costs down. You got to bring more income in and put it away somewhere. So you should have life insurance. I tell everybody, life insurance, especially my Black friends, I say that the great wealth builder in the Black community, and all communities, especially in Black community, is life insurance, because life insurance is not taxed. When I die, my daughter will get life insurance. Now with her estate, she'll have to pay 51% tax, 51% when I die, just to get what we have.
Sure.
So we have life insurance policy. So I tell that guy, get you a life insurance policy.
Look, it's in chapter 1 of You Need More Money. I say, I want you to do me a favor. My brother-in-law didn't have any insurance. Think about what he could have had. For $50 a month, he could have had a $100,000 term life insurance policy. For $100 a month, by the way, all the kids had iPhones, right? For $100 a month, he probably could have had 250 grand. $100 a month could get you 250 grand worth of term life insurance. I mean, I say, put the book down right now, Google search term life insurance in your town, and buy as much of it as you possibly can, because that's leverage. That's cheap leverage.
And that's, Matt, what you just said is critical. What you can buy. So many people say, I'm not going to get life insurance because I can't get a $5 million plan like you.
Right.
You don't need a $5 million. If my grandparents, if my grandparents would have just had $14,000, it would have buried them.
Yeah.
So I tell people, you just don't want to put a burden on your family to have to figure out how they're going to cremate. I think a cremation now is probably $6,000 or something like that.
Yeah, I paid for my brother-in-law's under the exact same scenario. And, it's funny how people think, they're all like, well, let's just go cheap on it, right? Because that's how people think, man. Let's just and my response to that was, listen, I already spent enough. We're going to finish strong on this one, right? We're going to give him the proper burial. And so that's the key component to the book too, is what is it like? And you've experienced this countless times in your life as I have. What is it like to be in a position in which what seems like such a struggle to somebody else is like nothing, right? And I don't mean it, I'm just talking purely in financial. I'm not talking about the emotional piece of it because that's a whole different story. But for you to go in or your wife to go in and solve the uniform program for the baseball team, that coach may have had sleepless nights over that. And you can solve it like that. That's the power of when you have enough to pay your own bills, that's when it gets exciting,
Yeah. Or how about when your neighbors who are engineers, they both get laid off? And they're great people. The wife homeschools her kids. And you can go over and say, you know what? You're not going to move. I'm going to help you out with your mortgage payment until you guys find jobs. That's a beautiful thing.
You bet it is,
now,
man.
If you just want to collect money just to become that ogre and walk by a homeless person and just look at them and snarl, that's the wrong thing to do. But I believe most people who make more money want to help, and they do help people.
Yeah, and then what happens is once you start to do that, it feels so good, and you can see the contribution that the only thing it should trigger is I need more money to do more of this. So,
that's right.
So the cycle never stops. There is no finish line. Once you start tapping your potential, the other thing you realize is you got more potential. That's the beautiful thing about being on that type of roadmap.
And then that person you're helping, Matt, you can explain that to them. Then they say, wow, you know what? When I do get my engineering job back, I'm going to make more money so I can do what Greg and his wife just did.
Pay it forward. I love it.
So it's a domino effect.
So, Greg, let's talk about the book real quick. Where can people get their hands on your book?
They can go to Amazon.com. They can go to Barnes & Noble. Or they can go to my website and get a signed copy.
Beautiful.
Les Brown wrote the foreword for me.
That's awesome.
Forbes magazine wrote something on the back. Think about it. I graduated 455, and Forbes wrote something about me. Right? I got Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant's coach, Jim Clemens, one of the 10 NBA rings, right? Something. I am truly blessed.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I want a signed copy. And Matt, normally I just sell the paperbacks. So I will send anybody who comes on and orders it in the next 2 days from your program, I'll send them a hard copy for the same price, $19.99, and I'll autograph it for them.
Fantastic. My friend,
GregInspires.com.
GregInspires.com. My man, thank you for your time today and telling us the story. It's so unbelievably inspirational. The success is one component, but the overcoming the obstacles is just incredible. And then where these people came into your life at these certain times and said, hey, man, you're not what you think you are. I see something in you. I have to tell you, it's one of my biggest regrets that I just don't, maybe it came, man. Maybe I just wasn't a student. Maybe the teacher was there and I was just gunning and I couldn't see it.
I think that's what happened. Even Mike Williams, the man who Les Brown has only spoken in front of 3 times, when Les Brown was a DJ here in Columbus, Ohio, Les always talks about Mike. He calls him Brownie. And when Mike believed in him, right? And when I joined Toastmasters 3 years ago, I just represented Ohio for the World Championship Public Speaking in Vancouver, Canada. Me.
Only speaking, had to go to Toastmasters to learn the craft.
2 years ago.
Unbelievable, man.
I remember when I was speaking and I saw Mike Williams come in. And Matt, this is where our mind defeats us. One of the 9 guys I was competing with to try to get to Las Vegas for the World Championship, his grandfather was a politician and his dad was a politician. So I'm standing back in the corner, even though I'm highly more successful than that guy. I'm standing in the corner. Mike Williams comes in. I said, Mike, what are you doing here? He says, I'm coming to hear you. I said, but you're not a Toastmaster, so you had to pay $55. He said, of course, I want to hear you speak again, Greg. So he said, why are you back in the corner? I said, Mike, why am I even here? He said, what are you talking about? I said, Mike, see the guy over there with the nice suit? Now, you always see me in my hat, But at the time, I respected Toastmasters. I didn't wear my hat. I didn't wear my T-shirt. I wore a button-up shirt. And he said, where's the hat at? I said, I didn't wear it, blah, blah, blah. And he said, what are you talking about this guy? I said, Mike, his dad and grandfather was a politician. You know, I grew up here by where Les was a DJ with his 7 kids. And he said, Greg, what would Les do if he was speaking against that guy? I said, Les would get up and wipe him off the mat. He said, okay, Greg, you grew up listening to Les. You grew up in the same place where his kids were growing up, but not in a great area, an impoverished area. I guarantee you, Greg, that young man, if his dad and grandfather was a politician, he never had to fight for a damn thing in his life. He said, so you get up there and you do what you do and don't worry about what he's going to do, where he comes from. You put your pants on just like he does. Just like when I told Les that he needs to be a motivational speaker. And he said, Brownie, I can't do that. He said, get up and do that. Well, if people go on my Facebook and Instagram, you'll see me holding the winning trophy next to that politician guy. And we are now friends.
Dude, that's amazing. I love that.
When Mike Williams told me that I am a speaker, I didn't believe him.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
When Les told me that I was a speaker, when he said, young man, you have a powerful voice, you have a story, you can do this, I didn't believe him. So I do believe you had someone, Matt, but sometimes I think we miss it. I don't know. Maybe God, he didn't bless me with the, what do I want to say? The book skills in class, but maybe he gave me the gift of observing other people.
Yeah, I see that. And then also the ability to put out some energy that made them come in your direction, because that's happened a number.
Because look how I met Brad Lee and a guy who I spoke with in Zambia. I give entrepreneur coaching in Zambia, Africa. I met him and Brad Lee with my buddy who lives here in Columbus, Ken Walls. I met Brad on Blab. Most people don't even know what Blab is. So once again, I look back, when I was in Vegas, Brad, we said we're going to drive there, and I just went through with Jeremy Rubin or whatever, and I walk in, and Brad always told me, if you're in Vegas, you better come see me. So I'm sitting there being quiet in the back. Jeremy Rubin and other people are going there, and he says, Greg, mofo mother, get in here, right? So I'm just like, hey, how you doing, Brad? And he says, step behind the desk. We're going to do a live thing. Let's go into the studio.
Yeah, man.
Everyone else was like, dude, you got to do it. I'm like, and I don't know why Brad wanted me to do that, but Brad and I, we connected.
Yeah.
We connected off that Blab. So I look back and I say, even with you and me here now, Matt, I can look back now and say, wow, now Matt Manero and the Big Dreamer, we are connected.
Totally.
So I tell you, when you have that circle of friends, it's kind of like the Les Brown Institute. They always call me, Matt, and say, hey, we see you have pictures of Les. Would you like to be certified? And what I do is I send them like 20 videos of me and Les talking, and Les talking about me, right? And I'll say, listen, when I get 3, I wish I could play my eye, and you'll hear Les say, Greg, brother, this is Les. Will you please call me back? Look, that's my station.
It's like when the Better Business Bureau calls me and says, you should be accredited. I said, I already got an A+ rating with you guys. What do I need to pay for accreditation for? Right.
That's right. So now I have that circle of friends with you, Brad, all these people.
It's big.
And it's all because of connections.
Yes, it matters so much.
It's all because of connections. And then once we get that, we have to nurture that and not burn any bridges.
Yep. Listen, my friend, I appreciate you. I appreciate the time, the energy, the story, everything you're doing. I can't wait to see you down the road. All right.
Can I say one last thing, Matt?
100%.
I want everyone out there to understand. I always say this when I'm speaking. We are all too big to dream small. Stop counting yourself out. You're knocked down, but you're not knocked out. We all fall down, but it's our choice to stay down.
Yep.
Our choice is your choice. You might not be where you're at right now, but I promise you, if you trust the process, of life and keep doing what's right in life, you will have the life that you once dreamed of. And someone's getting your dream. So why not? Why can't it be you?
Of course.
I'll leave it with that, brother. I love you. Have a phenomenal day, year. Hug your family and keep doing things with your family, because family for me is my true success.
Dude, I hear you 100%. I appreciate everything today, my friend. I'll see you down the road.
All right, brother. Peace.